Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy hot Sunday. Hoping everybody can hear me all right. And I'm just going to do a couple different things today. One thing is that I'm here on my own in my yoga room. And so I want to shout out to my partner, David, at Gamut Productions, who's been helping me for the last few weeks get the show up and running. And today I'm all by myself. So it's a little bit of a new experience for me. And so we'll see how it goes in this practice today. Okay. All right. So as we get settled in today into our practice, I'm going to encourage you to find a comfortable seat and two things that you might find helpful in this practice. One would be a dowel for your feet or a ball. So we always start with some fascia work. And then the second thing might be a stretchy band if you've got one. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can use your housecoat strap or a belt or anything of the sort that suits you. So if you don't have the stretchy band, not to worry. The reason I did want to address this today is this is a really great way to kind of bring some awareness into the muscles in the body and movement. And so you might find it helpful to work with a stretchy band. And in the case of using a strap, we can still get a little bit of isometric strength and awareness in muscle groups. So this definitely works as well. And so you can just maybe grab those or have them nearby. So I'm starting with sitting on the edge of the chair. I have a little blanket on the chair so that I have a little support for my sit bones. And then I'm going to choose whatever I'm going to use for my feet, and I'm going to use a dowel today. It is a warm day, so this would be a great opportunity if you are having, if your apartment is warm or wherever space you're in. If you're working on the foot, frozen water bottle is great. If you don't have one, maybe today you put one in the freezer for another practice. So whatever you're going to use on your feet, we're going to start by sitting on the edge of the chair and just choose one foot. And we'll just roll through the bottom of the foot here. It's a great opportunity to get in touch with the connections in the feet. We will finish today's practice with some standing balances. Your balance starts in your feet. And if that fascia in the foot is really tight and dense and doesn't have a lot of resilience and movement, it can challenge our sense of balance. So rolling the foot can help this. If you want to add more pressure, just by hinging a little bit forward at the hip crease, you might be able to find that movement in the foot. There you go. So you could roll on the outer edge of the foot, inner edge of the foot. Yeah, just taking one more roll through that whole foot as you press gently into the foot. Find enough pressure that feels manageable for you, not painful. Okay, so when you're ready, we'll come up and we'll do the other side when you're ready. So as you take your foot off the towel, or whatever you're using, could be your tennis ball, dryer ball, rolling pin, frozen water bottle. Starting with the other foot. So you might lean into it a little bit. Rolling. So the other difference in our practice today is that I am using earbuds that have microphones in them, because David is away and has all his wonderful gear with him. So today is a bit of an experiment, and you can feel free to comment what worked and didn't work for you today. So as you hinge forward the hips and press into the thighs with your hands, this adds a little extra pressure into the fascia in your foot. And the connective tissue is your newest organ as of about 2013. Until then, we knew the fascia existed, but I don't think in Western medicine we quite understood how important it is for injuries, movement, chronic pain. It's a very intelligent tissue and it's everywhere. It creates your posture. And it requires two things to stay healthy. Well, maybe a few more, but two main things that we can do to help our fascia stay healthy is gentle movement and some gentle pressure or massage into the fascia. So right now we're adding compression into the tissues in the bottom of the foot, which is helping kind of massage the connective tissue. Very good. So you can just have enough of that. Just add a little bit of awareness in the foot as you come up. Then we can move the dowel aside or whatever you're using. All right. So the other thing you can do for your fascia, which also helps us kind of get in touch with the body, is tapping. So you might start with some gentle tapping. You might get the back of the thighs, top of the legs. You could be a little more assertive in some areas of the body. There might be areas that you want to avoid completely, just if you have some tension or some injuries. You might even tap up to the sides of the ribs and then see if you can bring one hand, even if it's one finger, one or two fingers, up to the chest. And we'll just gently tap around the chest here. Just gently tapping. You might even tap your shoulder, down the arm, the other arm. That's it. Very good. And then lastly, we'll go back to the thighs, just a little more pressure in the thighs. Very good. Yeah, and then when you feel ready to slow it down, just take a moment. So let's just take 3 big shrugs of your shoulders. I'm just going to take a moment to fix my audio here a little bit that I can hear. There we go. That should be better. Okay. All right. So just take a moment here. You might even close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. The sigh breath is really a helpful practice at the beginning. So you might take 2 more breaths in the nose, slowly out with a sigh. All the face muscles soften. Just encourage all the face muscles to soften. I'm just starting to notice your breath coming in and out on its own. There's this inherent expansion of our inner body as you breathe in. And this gentle contraction as we breathe out. Sort of letting go, retreating back. Just kind of notice that, how the body expands as you breathe in. And how the body softens as you breathe out. So you might choose in today's practice to breathe in the nose, out the nose, in the nose, out the mouth. And there is no one right way, but if it's available to you, it can be helpful to start to nurture or cultivate nasal breathing. So the sigh breath be really helpful sort of when you settle into a position or a sort of a cleansing breath to release a little carbon dioxide and held tension from the body. But then mainly going back to nasal breathing can be really helpful. A little more oxygen and stimulates a center in the brain for cognition and memory. So today I just encourage you to see if you kept your lips together and a little space for your back teeth. Could you take 3 breaths in the nose and out the nose, just focusing on the sensation of the breath coming in and out the nose. Encourage the jaw to soften. So if that breathing pattern works for you today, feel free to keep at it. But as I mention always, your been breathing your whole life, on average 20,000 times a day. So if that is not feeling comfortable for you today, just go back to a comfortable breathing pattern for you. You can reserve those sigh breaths once in a while to release some tension from the body. So our first movement, I always like to do the movement for the pelvis first. So really the idea of hinging forward from the pelvis means the whole pelvis hinges forward, comes to neutral, and then hinges back a bit. And this is the rocking chair. So I'll show you from the side so you can see. I'm sitting a little on the edge of the chair. I have my hands on my thigh bones for support. Feet flat on the floor, knee under ankle. So I sit up tall. I'm going to take a breath here. And the exhale as I hinge the hip crease forward comfortably. You can press into the thighs with your hands. I might lift the heels to add that extra stretch in your lower back. On the inhale, as you come up, the heels come down. You can tuck your chin in towards your chest. And as you lean back, the toes might lift. Now those core muscles have to engage. So as I inhale up, exhale forward, heels can lift. Inhaling to center. Heels come down. Exhale, leaning back. As you lean back, I encourage you to draw your chin towards your chest. Otherwise, I see a lot of this. It's kind of fun for the neck. Sitting up, hinging forward. So as you do this movement one or two more times, I just encourage you to explore what kind of awareness you have in the sit bones and the body weight kind of moving from the front of the sit bones to the back of the sit bones and then to your center. Let's try that one more time, hinging forward, coming up, exhale, leaning back. You might choose to breathe in a different way, and that's fine. Very good. And as you come back to your first position here, we're going to do a little neck stretch from this position. So it's very gentle. So I'm going to keep my feet flat on the floor. And as I hinge forward, I'm just going to see if I can rest my forearms on my thigh bones. I'll show you what that looks like from the front. Okay. So then from this position, if you could even be here. From this position, this could be a nice resting position for you if you decide you need a break at any time. You might look straight down at the ground between your feet. And then very slowly start drawing your chin a little bit in towards your chest, just till you feel something in the back of the neck. And then you might invite the chin to gently move like a half circle over towards, or quarter circle over towards one shoulder. Encourage all the muscles in your face to soften. Maybe a sigh breath to encourage some held tension to soften. And then just take your time journeying back to center with the chin coming towards the chest. You might choose to just stay here or gently move the chin a little bit towards the other shoulder. Your comfort is the most important thing in this practice. So if anything causes you sharp pain, please feel free to leave it out, do less. Take a break. When you're ready, you bring your hands to your thighs, pressing into the thighs as you slowly unhinge to come up. And then we'll just invite the little circle with the shoulder. So I want you to think of your shoulders rolling forward, up towards your ears, back towards the back of your chair, gently sliding down towards your sit bones. Once you have that movement, you might choose to do a smaller range of motion. If there's any sensitivity there, it could be a micro movement. Even this teeny tiny circle could be really nourishing for the fascia around the shoulder. I want you to keep in mind that if you have an injury in the body, the first layer of tissue in the body to tighten up as a protective mechanism is the connective tissue. So if you feel like there's some restriction in the shoulders, if we try to force bigger movements, often that connective tissue as a protective layer is just going to stay in that held pattern. So you might choose to do less. And that really is a helpful practice. And it's definitely something that's challenging. As for years, we've been taught that, 110%, no pain, no gain. And in this practice, this is not the case. So less could be more. That's it. Okay. So next time your shoulders slide down your back, I'm going to bring my elbows close, palms up. So we'll return to this position when we explore the shoulder and creating some strength in the shoulders. This position here, I'll just show you from the side. Palms up, elbows close. The shoulder blades kind of slide down and under. It's just a helpful reminder of kind of essentially where the shoulders want to be. And then we can even invite a little warm up for the rotator cuff and just the awareness of the shoulder blade itself. So as the hands slide out, I have like my palms facing up, elbows stay close to the body. You might notice that one arm will move further than the other. It's okay. I want you to notice. This is a great movement to do just to maintain range of motion in the inner shoulder. That's it. Very good. And it's just that great reminder of ideally where we want our shoulder blades to be to help with proper posture. And then the hands are going to come to my knees. So we're going to start with cat-cow, which is really the full movement of the spine from the head all the way to your tailbone. I'm going to start with my hands right over my knees. Got my knee under my ankle, feet are hip width apart. I'm going to slide the hands towards my hips so that the elbows start sliding towards the back of the chair. Sitting up tall, you might lift your chin a bit. So this is the extension of your spine. Take a breath here. On the exhale, as the hands slide forward, I'm going to encourage you to lean into your back. So rounding like a cat, chin towards your chest. Inhale, think of undulating up, hands sliding slowly towards your hips, spine lengthening, elbows sliding back, chest lifts, chin lifts. Exhale, sliding the hands forward, rounding the upper back. Think of a cat stretch here. Reach your arms over your knees, chin to chest. And then sitting up. Lengthening the spine, undulating the spine, chin to lift. Try maybe one or two more of those movements on your own time. See if you can take some awareness into those sit bones we started with today. So you might notice in the pelvis itself that as we slide the hands to the hips and sit up tall, lifting the chin a little, that you're sitting a bit on the front of the sit bones. And then as we slide the hands towards the knees and lean into your upper back, the pelvis tucks under a little bit here, chin to chest. So I just want you to kind of notice what movement is available for you in your pelvis. Pelvis is tilting forward as we sit up tall in the extension. And the pelvis is kind of rounding and tucking under as we stretch the upper back. Very good. All right, so then as you come back to your first position, roll up, back and down. I just wanted to invite in a new movement today that kind of incorporates the awareness of the sit bones and a little bit of movement for the rest of the thoracic spine. All right, so we're going to add on to your cat-cow movement we just did by taking some awareness into the rib cage, the center of the ribs. So next week, what I am going to encourage people to do, if you have a TheraBand, is we're going to wrap it around the chest and see if we can find some awareness in these muscles. But for today, I just want you to notice, so the rib cage is three-dimensional. You might take your hands up to the rib cage. If this causes you discomfort, you can leave your hands at your sides and just visualize the rib cage. It is three-dimensional. And when we breathe into the rib cage, we can expand the ribs. You might see it in my body in all directions. So I'm going to focus my breathing into my ribs, expanding them out in all directions. Now my rib cage is quite full. Exhale. My rib cage slides back towards each other. Okay, so that awareness of the rib cage. For many people, when they put their hands on their ribs, you can relax your arms. There might not be any movement there at all. Sometimes those muscles are pretty tight around the rib cage. Those are your intercostal muscles. Those are your main muscles of breathing. aside from diaphragm and pelvic floor. So the intercostal muscles allow your ribcage to expand out and gather. So we're going to do some work today to help to kind of loosen up the ribcage. So the first thing we're going to do is just play with your sit bone movement, and then we're going to explore the ribcage movement. Just see if you can shift your weight to one sit bone, back to center, and shift your weight to the other sit. Now this time as you shift your weight to the other sit bone, see if you can shift forward now, and then over to the other sit bone, and then maybe onto the back of the sit bone, over to the other, and forward. So we're letting our weight shift from one sit bone to the other, and we're exploring the front of the sit bones and the back of the sit bones. So essentially you're kind of going like a Weeble here. Everybody remembers those toys, the Weebles? Okay, so try the other direction if you can. Shifting back, over, forward, side. Okay, good. So the additional movement we're going to add into this is the movement of the rib cage. So if I sit up tall at the beginning here, I want you to just imagine there's a hula hoop around your rib cage. Hula hoop. Okay? So I want you to see if you can get your back ribs to the back of the hula hoop, your ribs to the side of the hula hoop, forward, and that movement of the sit bones is going to come in that we were doing. Now we're adding more awareness of the rib cage. Forward, side, back, around. Just explore this movement. It's not a simple movement to first begin with. So just encourage that little bit of the rib cage moving forward, to the side, to the back, around, and forward. Got it. Let's try the other direction. So your rib cage moving over to one side, back towards the back of the chair, other side, forward, over, and back. So you'll notice that the weight is shifting on the sit bones, and that our spine is going from a little bit of flexion and extension. One more. Very good. Okay. So that movement, if it's a new movement for you, it might have felt a bit challenging. And just keep in mind that muscle memory and new movements in the body always take more than one try in order for us to go, oh yeah, okay, I kind of feel it, I get it. So we'll review that one next week. But again, it's just that idea of getting the rib cage moving. Kind of reminds me of sort of belly dancing movements, but it's really helpful for starting to immobilize the thoracic spine a little bit, which is your mid-spine, kind of in that mid area. All right, little shoulder roll here a couple times, and one more shoulder shrug. All right, so we're gonna just do a warm up for the last two movements of your spine, which would be twisting and side bending. So for our dynamic twist today, I'm gonna start with my hands on my knees. Take a big breath in. On the exhale, I'm gonna bring my right hand, slide it towards my hip, let the shoulder come back, and let the head follow. That's an important key here, is letting your head come with you as you do this movement. Inhale to center if you can. Exhale as you slide the other hand towards your hip, gently turning. Inhaling to center. Exhaling to turn. Inhaling to center. And exhaling to turn. Yeah, try one more time on your own breathing pace. Inhale to center, exhale to turn. Warming up the twisting action of the spine. Inhale to center, exhale to turn. Very good. And as you come back to center, shoulder roll. Anytime you feel you'd like a little shoulder roll to release tension, or a tension release shoulder shrug. So let's try two of those. Tension up. Exhale slowly. Relax. Try it one more time. So let's try a little, we're going to do a little side bend and a little twist. So the first thing we're going to do is the fingertips to sternum twist. So slightly bigger twist, slightly more stretch for or opening for the inner chest. So I'm going to start by taking my right fingertips to my sternum. I'm going to take my left hand and place it across on the outside or somewhere on my right thigh. I'm going to start with extending my right arm out to the side. I'm going to turn to look at that hand, take a big breath. On the exhale, follow the arm behind you. Just see where it goes, all on its own. Once you get as far as you can go comfortably, take a breath or two. Good. On your way back, follow the arm with your head and your arm and your shoulder moving together. And as the hand comes back into the sternum, let the arm relax down. Okay, so I'm going to keep my left hand across my right side here. Just going to help me keep my sit bones stable on the chair. And if your arm allows now, I'm going to extend my right arm up in the air. You try to relax the shoulder. Sometimes it does this. I encourage you to relax the shoulder away from the ear, reach through the fingertips, take a big breath. Now we're going to go over to the left. Try to root through both sit bones. So oftentimes that opposing sit bone is going to want to lift. I want you to try to anchor it to the chair. Small side bend is better than a big one. And then the arm reaches up, coming down. Very good. And so as you bring your arms in, a little shoulder roll, we'll do the left side. So when you're ready, we'll take the left fingertips to the sternum. Your right hand could cross and just rest somewhere on the left thigh. Sitting up tall, I'm going to extend the arm out to the side and then take a big breath. As I start to exhale and twist, I'm going to follow the arm. I'm going to let the head turn and follow, 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 only to a comfortable range of motion where I could maintain length in the spine. Take 2 breaths or 1 here. Very slowly come back. Fingertips coming into the sternum. Elbow relaxes. Very good. So as your arm comes down, I'm going to keep my right arm across my left thigh. I'm going to stretch my left arm up. I'm going to try to relax the shoulder. Sometimes it likes to hike up towards the ear. Root down through both sit bones. If your arm does not want to extend, you could have your hand here. Or you could do a side bend like so without the arm coming overhead. So just know if your shoulder is saying, nope, doesn't want to go overhead, that's okay. Experiment with just focusing on the spinal movement. Lengthen as I breathe in. Root through both sit bones and that tiny, tiny side bend without the sit bones lifting or shifting. Try to keep your weight even in both sit bones. That's it. Very good. As the arm comes down. Yeah. All right. Good. So let's take a moment now. We're going to widen the feet. So you can do this heel toe movement. Great little warm up for your hip joint. So if your feet stay together and then you turn your feet out, your knee and your hip and your leg and your foot externally rotate. Neutral, external rotation, neutral. Yeah. So this is an interesting awareness here is just how the foot, the knee, and the hip work together. And so we're going to keep that gentle wide angle here. So it might even look like you have a bit of a Y with the legs. You can experiment with what width feels manageable and comfortable for you. I am still sitting a bit on the edge of the chair, but you might have to adjust so you don't feel like you're sliding out of the chair. So in this position, I'm going to take both hands. I'm going to turn gently the body and place both hands on my right thigh. And I'm going to go slow. I'm going to slide the hands down the leg, only as far as you can go comfortably, and then slide back up. So now we're stretching a little bit of the back muscles on that opposite side, the QL. Notice that my head is not dropping below my heart. That's helpful so I don't get dizzy or create extra pressure in the head. Okay, once you come up and you've done 3 of those, you come back to center, a little shoulder roll, turning to the other side. So gently turning the torso as best you can, hands on the thigh, slide down the leg. See where you get to. And come back up. So really, yoga is a practice of inquiry. Inquiring about movement and stillness and breathing, inner sensations in the body. We're not necessarily trying to get anywhere, just to be present and aware of the sensations that might come up as we move in different ways. Okay, very good. So once you've done 3 of those, take a moment at center, little shoulder roll. So the last side bend we're going to do. So we've already done 1 side bend. This one I really like. I'm going to use my forearm on my thigh. This is the one I usually call the John Wayne stretch. Just kind of hanging out with your forearm on your thigh. This could be a lot of sensation here. If that was the case and you felt like it was too much, you might come out a little and use your hand so that you can modify how far over you've gone. So this feels all right for me to lean my forearm into my thigh. I'm going to take the other arm, so my left arm out, palm down. I'm going to slice it in front and over towards that other shoulder. You might get a little bit of a bigger bend here. Let's try that one more time. So the arm is going to slice around towards the knee. It opens up the rib cage a little bit. Back. Let's try one more. Very good. As you come back to center, hand comes to the thigh. As you come up, little shoulder roll. Let the shoulders relax. We're going to go on over to the other side. So leaning over, be resting your forearm on your thigh. In that gentle stretch in the rib cage. Arm extends out, palm facing down. Follow the arm if you like. Now, if the arm action is causing you discomfort, you've had an injury or limitation, one thing is you've got to just explore what range of motion do I have without sharp pain. And if the answer is there's no movement in this that feels good for me, then you might just stay here, encouraging the rib cage to open. You're still getting your side bend. So the arm action is just an added movement that you might choose to put in. Okay, wonderful. So when you're ready, to press your hand into your thigh and you come up. Good. So walk your feet in to about hip width apart. Good. So anytime in this practice, if we're sitting tall at the front of the chair, and I kind of remind people of this a lot, it is a core workout. If you're sitting up tall at the front of your chair, very common, after a little while, I'll see people when I'm in class that just kind of start to collapse back. If you're feeling that sense of tiredness and you're kind of wanting to collapse into the body here, I would encourage you at that point to just take a break, hinge forward like we did at the beginning, and lift your heels. This will give that lower back a little stretch, a little break, and then perhaps you can come back up and feel a little bit better. So just know, if we're sitting up tall at the edge of the chair, you are working a lot of the core muscles along the spine. And if we've been used to sitting back into chairs and sort of letting all our backs be supported, those multifidus muscles along the spine, sometimes you can really feel them effortlessly working just by sitting up tall without support beneath you or behind you. So it is a little bit of a core movement just to sit up tall here. Very good. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when we're sitting up tall, we are connecting into a deep core line that runs from your feet. So the deep core line, I put the chair back a bit so you can see my toes, starts under the mound of your big toe. This is a layer of fascia that moves to the inner thigh, all the way to the pelvic floor, all the way up along the spine, up along those multifidus, touching at the back of the jaw. So I have toe spacers in, as you can see, that space out my toes. They look a little funny. If you don't have those, you might just for a moment lift your toes, gently spread them out, and then place them on the floor. And see if there's awareness there that you can press into the mounds under your big toes a little bit. Press them down and think of sitting up tall as if you were rooting down through the mounds of your big toes all the way up through the crown of the head. So sitting up tall, And the teacher shared this with me once, and I was really surprised. When we're in our core line, there is less pressure on our joints, particularly hips and shoulders. Really interesting. When we're kind of collapsed into the body, we kind of collapse in extra pressure into the joints. So, what I would like you to explore, if you press down through the mounds of the feet, think of lengthening through the crown of the head as you sit up tall. Try to lift one leg. Try to lift the other leg. Very good. Try that one more time. Lengthening. See if you can lift the leg a little bit, just kind of like you were seated marching. That's it. Okay. Now, as an experiment, just slouch in your chair. Like you're just tired. You're done. Now try to lift your leg. Now, most times when people do this, they will notice that it's more effort to lift the leg when I'm sort of slouching. When I root down through the feet, lengthen through that core line of the body, it feels very different for me to lift the leg. So that's one helpful awareness of that core line, which we're going to work with a little bit standing today. All right. So I'd like to go into some work with your TheraBand or with your strap today. So first thing we're going to do with your strap or your band, right? Or your house coat or your belt or a thick scarf. Okay? It's going to be slightly different if you're using something that doesn't have stretch in it. Okay, it's still doable. I will show you both. So whatever you're going to use, we're just going to start with placing it underneath the ball of the foot. Okay? I'm going to move my chair back a little further so that my feet don't get cut off in this camera. Okay. All right. So I've got it under sort of the ball of the foot. Yeah. I'm going to extend that leg out a little bit. And then I'm going to try to push the top of my foot down towards the floor and then bungees up. So if I've got a stretchy band, you're going to have a little bit of help getting that flexion in the foot. So it's a strengthener for some of the muscles in the foot that are required for balance. Yes. Now, for some bodies, there is some limitation in this movement for lots of different reasons. If you are using a strap, okay, so if you're using a band and this is feeling good, just keep at it. Just kind of like a toe tap, or if anybody's played a piano, kind of like pushing down the pedal into the piano. I'm not a piano player. Okay, so that action here, if you do not have a strap that's got stretch in it, one thing you could do is you could just do it without. Okay, or you put the strap and you just add a little bit of resistance under the ball of the foot and you push into the strap. So you can still add resistance and do this movement. It's a little different. So for this movement, really my preference is the stretchy band. They're really easy to find around town. If you have questions about them, you can ask me in the comments. I'm using the TheraBand brand, but there's lots of different brands. I've seen them at lots of stores in town, and lots of physio and chiropractors, massage therapists, rehabilitation PTs will use them as well. All right, so that one is for the range of motion in the foot and strengthening the muscles we need for balance. Okay, so now if I stretch my leg out a little further, holding the strap, okay, I'm going to lean back a little bit, bend the knee, and bring the leg up. So I'm going to show you what this looks like from the side because it's hard to see. Okay, so I'm going to bend the knee, I'm going to lean back a little bit. Now this action is I'm going to push down, scoop up and in. Down, forward and up. Backwards motion, backwards bicycle, essentially. If you're using a strap, you're not going to get a stretch. You're not going to get the stretchiness of that action. I'll just show you what it would look like with a strap so you know. Keep going if you're using the band. You would have to let your arms come with you. Bend the knee, but totally possible. Pushing down on an angle towards the ground like you're slamming on the gas or the brake, and up and in. So it's like a down on an angle, scooping up and in. That's it. Very good. Next time your leg is extended, it doesn't have to be right up high. That's sometimes really hard on those hip crease flexors. So you might have the leg a little lower, but it's hovering off the ground. through your heel if you can, and then take a little bit of action in the hip. So inviting the leg a little out to the side and in, and I'll just show you with the band, same thing. So really, whatever you've got. The elastic band just gives a little more awareness and feedback into some of those muscle groups for some bodies. Good. Try a circle. Very good. Yeah, and then when you're ready, we'll just place the foot on the floor. Sit up tall here. I'm going to try to pull those toes back towards me. If that means moving your strap or your band under more of the ball of the foot like we started with today, that's fine. And back, sitting up tall. If it feels appropriate to you, you could start hinging forward at the hip crease a little further to maybe increase some sensation of stretching the back of the leg. You might not need to go further. Take a big breath here. Very good. Wonderful. So when you're ready to come back up, as you bring the leg in, yeah. So let's switch to the other side, and I'm going to move around to the other side, or I'm going to move my chair forward so you can see me from the front. Okay. All right, so I'm sitting on the edge of the chair. I'm going to take my band, using it under the other foot. This first one is for sort of working on that movement of flexion in the foot. If you're using a stretchy band, it's a little more of strength training for this area. Okay, so it's under the ball of the foot, at the top part of the foot. Roll the shoulders, pull the hands back close to the body, and it's just that action of pushing down, stretching up. So what I like about the TheraBand is it gives you a little bungee sensation here into those muscles in the foot. That's it. But again, you could be doing this with a strap if you don't have a band. Good. Okay. Very good. Wonderful. So now we can just stretch the leg out and let the foot hover a little off the ground. So you're holding your strap, and then just see if you can let your leg move a little bit side to side. This is an action that's really coming from your hip. Out to the side, back in. You could do a tiny little circle. You could do a little circle in the other direction. Okay. Now let's bring that knee in. We're going to bend the knee, flex the heel a little bit. There's one we're going to push down towards the floor, scoop up and in. So it's like a backwards bicycle. I'm going down on an angle with the foot down towards the floor, extending the leg forward, bend the knee, bring it back. Find a range of motion that works for you. Notice where you feel the effort or the awareness or the sensations. Lots of people it's going to be in the hip. For some people, it might be more in the knee. That's it. Very good. Yeah, and then lastly this time, as you extend your leg down towards the ground, I'm going to let the heel rest on the ground. I'm going to keep the band underneath sort of the toes here, or the top of the foot, to help me get that flexion from the foot. Roll the shoulders back, sitting up tall. And then if it feels comfortable, you could hinge forward. Think about your heart coming forward. And then when you get as far forward as you feel comfortable, you might look straight down at the foot and take a breath in the nose, maybe out the mouth to release some tension. Very good. Good. When you're ready to come up, slowly arise. And your foot in. That's it. Yeah, so let's just take a moment now. So this is going to be for your outer hip muscles, and I'm going to show you a dynamic version, or what we call an isometric version, and it depends on what you're using. So if you're using a stretchy band, you're going to do a dynamic movement. If you're using a belt, you're going to want to secure yourself with the belt around the thighs, and then you're going to lean into it. You might not feel as much movement, but you are going to activate those external muscles in the hip. Those are called your abductor muscles. And they're really important for hip stability and for back stability. So if you're using a band, okay, you're going to bring your feet as close together as comfortable for you. So they could be right together, or they might not be right together, but as close as you can get them. I'm going to place it like a dinner napkin on the top of my knees. I'm just going to cross it underneath, bring around both edges, and hold it snugly. Okay. If you're using a belt, I'll just show you that I've made a loop in this. And I've seen people who will use an actual old belt and they'll just tie it around the loop as closely as they can get it onto their body. I'll put this on and show you. And if you didn't have a belt with loops, you could just tie it, right? You can just tie whatever you've got around the inner thigh. So if you're using a belt, you're not going to get a lot of range of motion, but you're going to feel those muscles engaging. So you're going to take a deep breath, exhale, push out into either your strap or your band, and then relax. Pushing out and relax. So you can see that I can push out only so far because I have a solid strap that doesn't have stretch in it. I am feeling these outer hip muscles, and then I release. Then I want you to find enough effort that you feel something, but not so much effort that you feel strain, shaking, or sharp pain. So that's what it would look like with a belt. You're using just your band, which I really like the band. I'll show you what that looks like. So if you're using the band, you're going to get some more range of motion. Slightly different benefit, but in both cases, we are working with those outer abductor muscles. So all muscles that help your leg extend out to the side. And this one though, if you're doing the version with the stretchy band, we're also getting a little bit more articulation of the hip, moving out and in. Whereas that more static version with the belt is just going to give you more recruitment in the outer hip. So not exactly the same benefits, but still both helpful. Okay? Very good. Now, the other last thing I will mention with this is that if I keep my feet flat and I extend out, if I try not to let my feet roll, that's as far as I can go. If it felt comfortable, I could roll on the edges and get a larger range of motion and explore how that feels. Okay, good. Let's try one more. Yeah, all right, good. Let's just take a moment here. Unravel. So next week, we're going to work with straps or bands for some shoulder stuff. But I wanted to introduce them gently as ways that we can create a little bit of inner awareness and shoulder movements. But for today, we'll stay with that. Next week, we're going to add on to that. So if you don't have a band, that might be some endeavor that you want to go into this week, is try to find one that you could work with. Or if you prefer just using a strap that you've got, you can do that as well. But next week, just so you know, I wanted to start working with how do we very gently start recruiting some of our back muscles by using gentle resistance. You can do the movement certainly without the band and still get some benefit, but using stretchy bands adds a little bit more activation and awareness in the muscles themselves. So they are really helpful tools. And I will say that yoga often we think is just about flexibility, and that's just not true. Yoga is a movement or an inquiry process. It's a way of embodiment, exploring breathing, movement, sometimes stretching, sometimes movement, sometimes stillness. But it's generally not always better to get a deeper stretch if we don't have stability. So stabilizing and strength training practices have always been part of traditional yoga. But we've really focused in the West here on the stretchy aspect, that flexibility aspect. But we certainly want some strength around the hip joint, around the spine, around the shoulders, so that we can move with stability and strength. And so these do become a helpful tool. But we can also get strength training just from some standing practices that we've been doing. So I wanted to finish our practice today with some standing balance awareness. So I'm going to encourage you to move your props out of the way so that they do not get in your way. Really important, especially when we're working with lots of stuff, that we don't get up out of a chair and then have something that might trip us up. Okay, so first thing, let's explore getting out of the chair. Okay, something you've been doing your whole life. So you've got your own way. This is a Feldenkrais movement awareness practice. that I learned once, which I find really helpful. So if I sit at the edge of the chair, I could even get rid of my blanket here for a moment. I sit right at the edge of the chair. If my knees under my ankle are problematic, if I try to get out of a chair right now, I'm not going to be very successful. So you really do want to have your heels a little more under you. So there's a little rhyme, knees over toes, and then nose over knees. So first part is knees over toes. Now I can press into my heels. Mainly I'm encouraging people to use their heel as the leverage. If we use the front of the foot, it puts more of the pressure on the front of the knee. And if we use the heel, we're using our backside and really getting into touch with the connection between the heel and the tailbone. So go ahead and push into the heels. You might even feel like your bum wants to lift, but not quite. Second part of this is that you want to push down into the feet when the nose is over the knees, because there'll be more weight in your feet. So that might mean having your hands on the sides of the chair, okay? But just see if your arms are just hanging. If I hinge at the hip crease, forward, 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 nose, as soon as my nose is a little more over my knees, I can press into my heels a little more, and then I can press to come up. So just move at the pace or your technique that works for you. And then once you've come up out of the chair, good practice is to kind of bend the knees, sink into the feet for a moment before moving. And then we're going to establish a way to set up for balance. So you might use your chair in front of you as something to hold on to. That's a great option. Could be a walker with the brakes on, or the back of the couch, or a countertop. So whatever you're going to use, I do encourage you though to have something nearby. You want to make your balance successful. I'm going to move this a bit. I don't have my camera operator here. Okay. All right. So our last bit of class today is going to be about focusing on our body weight in our feet. So we did start today working with the weight in the sit bones, moving in the chair. Now with your feet a little wider than your normal stance. So for me, they're a little wider than even my shoulders. And I put a little bend in my knees. And I'm just going to shift my weight to my leg. So now all my body weight is on this side of the body. I'm going to shift my body weight through center and over to the right. So you might start here. You might start with this sensation of just shifting through center. And then the leg lifting, maybe the leg lifts. And maybe it doesn't lift today. Shifting. And then the leg might extend a little off the ground. And we can add an arm movement. So as we shift now to the right leg, as you shift your weight to the right leg, think of your right arm stretching up as the left leg extends. And bend the knee, shift the weight through center, over to the other side. Sort of a diagonal stretch through the body. That's it. And the knees, shifting, stretching in both ways. So if you had a chair in front of you, you could have one hand on the chair, and then you could put the other hand on the chair and then stretch the other arm up. That's it. Let's try one more on either side. So we're getting a short moment of weight-bearing activity on that standing leg and a little balance, reaching up. Very good. Okay, good. Wonderful. So as you come back to your first position here, bringing your feet into about hip width apart, as you bend your knees, and I encourage you to put your hands on your hips. Having your knees a little bent is really important here. I want you to think of your tailbone. I just want to encourage you to invite your tailbone to move down towards the floor, and then gently let your tailbone move towards the wall behind you. It's important to keep the knees bent here. So I'm encouraging you to do some movement of your pelvis, tucking under and ticking back. Could be a tiny action. So just visualize your tailbone moving down towards the floor and then towards the wall behind you. That's it. Last time, down towards the floor and then towards the wall behind you. So this last time, I'm going to encourage you to move your tailbone just gently down towards the floor as you straighten the legs, pressing down through the heels. So pressing down through the heels, you might lift your toes, spread them out, place them down. Think again of that mound of under your big toe, pressing into the floor, feeding up through the spine, Roll the shoulders up, back, and down, maybe 3 times. Last time. As you bring your elbows close, palms up, bringing the hands to the heart center. Press them gently into each other, pressing down through the heels. And get the neck lengthening up towards the sky. That's it. So this is your mountain pose. So see if you can just shift your weight towards one foot, onto one foot, and back to center. Shift your weight to the other foot, and come back to center. Gently see if you can shift your weight a little forward onto the front of the feet. Back to center. And lastly, you might shift your weight a little bit onto the heels. Remember that if you feel unstable, bend your knees. It will bring you right back into the feet. Very good. So as you pause in your Tadasana, press down through the heels, hands at the heart center, shoulders rolling back. Take one big breath here. Yeah, so let's just take a moment. If you would like a challenge for your balance, as you stand here tall, the next challenge might be to close your eyes. This is not always ideal for all bodies. If closing your eyes creates dizziness or a sense of unsettled discomfort, then please don't do it. But it is a challenge for your balance, and it might help you sense your posture. So if it's comfortable for you, you might close your eyes. You might have to bring one hand to the chair in front of you to close your eyes. And you might decide that closing your eyes is just not for you today. Just take a moment. Center. Very good. So just taking one more big breath here. Very good. You're ready. Your arms come out to the sides. Bring your hands to your sides. So another thing that happens when we're walking, to show you, we end up, maybe if you have a walker, you end up walking like so, or we just gravity's pulling us down, and we're looking down at the floor, upper body rounds, pelvis tucks under, problematic in lots of ways. So if you find your posture rolling forward, gently roll the shoulders up, back, down. Every once in a while, I'll just gently remind myself to get the shoulders to open by rolling my thumbs back towards the wall behind me. And then try to maintain that openness in the chest and bring the hands back to my side. So next week, we're going to work a little more with the stretchy bands for the upper body. And a few more standing balance exercises. And we're going to build on some of the practices we did today. One thing I did want to mention about sitting, and why I wanted to end our class standing if you're comfortable doing so, is it's really helpful for that front hip crease, all those muscles here that connect your leg to your spine. One muscle that does this, called your psoas muscle. And if we sit a lot, this muscle can just get chronically short, causing a whole host of back issues for people. So if you do sit on a regular basis, even just standing every hour, just getting up and standing, it's a great way to get some stretch and length into the front body. So take that in with some awareness this week, that if you do sit for long periods of time, that maybe every half hour you could just stand up for a moment. Maybe even practice your weight shifting from one leg to the other, or some other movements that you'd like to try. So I really thank you for joining me today, and I hope that everybody can hear me clearly. I guess I'm going to find out when we come off air. So I really didn't have any way to monitor the sound without getting feedback. So this is my first live stream all by myself. So next week I'll be a little smoother and maybe a little less nervous about the operation of the technical side. So I really thank you for being here and practicing with me. And if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments below. And as always, I wish you a beautiful day. And I hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy some of the summer day. Namaste. I have to be the camera operator to stop the stream. So thank you again for being here as I end the stream today. I hope you had a great practice.